September 2023, the Canadian Parliament invited a gentleman from Ukraine to honour as a freedom fighter. They gave him a big round of applause. It was subsequently pointed out that he was, in fact, had fought for the Nazis, part of an SS regiment. There's great embarrassment in Canada that this had happened. The Speaker resigned for making such a colossal blunder. I mean, the Scottish Government would never make a mistake like that, would they? Surely. Well, let's go back a bit. Let's see what happened here. Well, this gentleman in Canada, along with a lot of people now in Scotland, they were in the Ukraine during the Second World War, and the Ukraine obviously was part of the Soviet Union. Stalin had starved millions of them to death, so a lot of people in the Ukraine weren't overly keen on the Soviet Union, to say the least. So when the Nazis invaded, they saw them as liberators, some people, particularly in the west of Ukraine, and so when offered the opportunity to join the SS, with some of the most extreme sort of hardline soldiers in Hitler's army, then they took the opportunity to do that. So a lot of Ukrainians joined the Nazi SS, pledged allegiance to Hitler. Now at the end of the war they fought in various theatres. A lot of war crimes are associated with them, some of which are not fully investigated. But at the end of the war they didn't want to surrender to the Russians because they know they'd just be shot as traitors. So they surrendered to the Allies, and huge numbers of them, we're talking thousands here, ended up in Britain, and quite a few in Scotland as well. Now, why were they allowed to stay in Britain? Part of the reason was people think MI6 wanted to use them as spies back in Russia, and that's what happened in several cases. So there's a particular regiment of the SS that these Ukrainians joined, the Golitsyn regiment division. And after the war, some of them ended up here at Holmmuir near to Lockerbie, and they built this chapel, which you can see here, which is about to be restored, a sort of Orthodox Ukrainian Catholic chapel. And there's also this monument here, which you can just take a step back, you can just see it. And let me explain what we've got on the monument here. Here we've got the divisional symbol, crest of this SS division. After it became known as the 1st Ukrainian Division, right at the end of the war. But for most of the war, it was used this regimental badge, which is from the SS Golitsyn regiment. So what we've got here in Scotland is a monument commemorating an SS Nazi regiment that was implicated in numerous war crimes. Quite an odd occurrence, you might think. So where does the Scottish Government come into this? Well, South of Scotland Enterprise, a Scottish Government agency, has given, I think it's £52,000 for the restoration of this site, and we assume it will also include the restoration of the site, including these memorials to a Nazi SS regiment. And one has to think that the Scottish Government hasn't really thought this through and doesn't really understand what it's doing. Now, to add to this, these Ukrainians that are in Scotland, there's very few survivors from that division of the SS now, but their descendants will still be here. No problem with that at all. The Ukrainian Catholic Church in Edinburgh, I understand, was built by people from this regiment. So no, same as with Germans today, no objection to these people. What I have an objection to, though, is the Scottish Government spending taxpayers' money to basically refurbish a memorial to an SS regiment. Something's gone very wrong there, hasn't it? Now, I wouldn't like anyone to think by making this video I'm somehow backing up Putin's point that Ukraine's full of Nazis, therefore it needed invading. Well, that is nonsense. Within Ukraine, some Ukrainian nationalists, sort of anti-Russian Ukrainian nationalists, look back at this SS Nazi regiment as heroes of Ukrainian nationalism, which is unfortunate. And a lot of people in Ukraine just wish they wouldn't do that, but it is part of the culture in Ukraine. But I don't think it shows that Ukraine's full of Nazis, but it does show that the Scottish Government hasn't got much of a grasp of history. Now, obviously it would be tempting to try and make something of the SNP's connection with the Nazis from the 1930s, but I wouldn't dream of doing that, because obviously, embarrassing to the SNP though that is, it's really of no relevance to the current SNP. So the SNP's past connections with the Nazis, we'll just leave those to one side. One of the videos here gives a bit more detail about the SNP's historical links with the Nazis. It's quite interesting. And all that remains to be said is to encourage you to get your ticket for the Scottish Family Party Conference on the 11th of November. Non-members welcome. There is a link below. We'd love to see you there. Thanks for watching.